Okay, let's get on to the fins here. So we've already traced out the fin patterns onto the sheet of plywood, 1/4 inch plywood. So you kind of have to think about your cuts here. So this will be a long cut, so this is where I'm going to cut first. So I'm just going to extend these out. I will make this cut first. With the old pull saw. So how can I get you to see this? So I use the fine tooth edge. There's two edges, rough and fine. I'm going to use the fine just because it's a little more precise, maybe slower. But really, you just kind of let the saw do the work. I'm trying to hold it perpendicular so that, you know, through the thickness it's perpendicular. Has a very fine kerf, but I'm not going to torture you with any more of watching me saw. So when we come back, I'll have probably at least one blade cut out. Okay, I've got one fin cut out. It's been a few minutes later. I want to go and show you kind of what we're going to have to do to the fins, because that's not everything. We will have these notches to cut too. Kind of explain that to you. So this is the lock-and ring system. So aft, mid, forward. So on your motor mount tube, I don't know if this will go in there or not. Sometimes you have to sand these for them to fit. But the idea is, like, this is the forward centering ring on the motor mount, and it will have this eye bolt that the recovery harness will go to. These are two, what are they called? Nuts. To go here in the aft one. So we'll pound these in with a hammer. Blind nuts, that's what they are. But they'll hold the motor retention. So these will be your motor retainers. Just like that, screw those in. So this is the aft one, this is the mid one. So the fins will basically lock into notches here. So what we'll have to do is mark those and cut notches out on each end. We can go ahead and mark that actually while we're here. And they will be the thickness of that slot. Yeah, I'm going to have to do some sanding, aren't I? But I'd rather have it fit tight than so actually the notch will be there. See there, so that'll be the rear notch, and the forward notch will be basically the same. Not deep. Yeah, it's a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to cut these slots and we'll be back in a minute. I'll show you how that works. It'll be a little easier if you can see it. Okay, this is the locking ring. So this is what I was talking about. Got the notches cut on one of the fins. And see how they'll kind of go into the notches on the ring. Locks it in. That will hold everything good. There'll be a slot through the tube. I'm going to have to kind of sand the idea of these centering rings for that motor mount tube to go through, but the motor mount tube will go through there. This forward one will be at the very end of the motor mount tube, and so that'll make it just a really strong structural fin can. So everything's really tight right now because, you know, it's just freshly cut. I always try and leave a little room to sand to get the fit exact, but that will kind of show it. These will be your motor retention, like I said, with these blind nuts. And once we get to that point, I'll pound those in. But that's the locking ring system. Okay, we're back in the OK Turbo shop. I was going to show you kind of how these blind nuts go in. Before I do that, I was going to give you a rundown of what this this lock-in ring system that you get from Lock Precision is all about. I used it on my large Predator rocket. Worked out pretty good. I also used it on the 4-fin version on my 1/3 scale Iris. And this was all based on a lock kit, so it all fit in the tube, everything. Now, I did deviate from the lock kit because this is more true to scale than the lock kit. Like the Gordon Agnello made me a scale nose cone, so it's a little bit different profile. I got some of the details, scale details, like little brackets and stuff on it. But anyhow, I digress. So let's show you what this is. So this is what it looks like when you get the fin can all put together. And just like on the Iris, this is the 4-fin version, but it uses the same ring. So this special plate here is actually so I can use my Loki motors since they have the snap ring. But see, there's these screws that go in. So those are the blind nuts that we're putting in. This actually has the 38 millimeter motor adapter in it. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. I'm not sure if I can. Oh, there it is. So now it comes out. So now this is the 38 millimeter motor adapter. And you can see it even has the blind nuts so that you can use just a regular, like if you're using a regular Airtech motor that's got the screw-in ring on the back, the aft end that has the thrust ring that way. You can just use like the same clips. But I'll be able to use this same adapter on, you know, when I go to use it to fly it on this the Mighty Mick. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. But anyhow, so that's how it goes together. So that basically shows it. So there's 54 millimeter. I could put a 54 millimeter motor in there right now. I can put in this adapter. And that's the way that works. So here is the aft ring for our fin can for the lock-and ring system. So just a word of caution, sometimes when you pound these things in, they'll go past the back, and if you just put it flat against the table, your workbench, they won't go all the way in. So I've got an extra little board here that's got some holes. I use this kind of as a backup on my my drill press. So line up that hole this way, you know, that thing can go all the way through and not bottom out when you hammer it in. But, you know, it's not real high tech here. set in there. And kablam. So here's the one fin that I cut out and put the notches in to match up with these rings. So what I'm going to do now is cut these other two fins out and get them ready, and then we'll come back and start working on the fin can. Okay, let's see how good I did just matching up with the rough cuts here. They're all pretty close. But what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the belt sander and got some tear out there. But go on the belt sander and just really match these up to each other. Plus the flat spot here on the back of these other two, I didn't cut that with the saw. I'll get that down on the bands, or the belt sander, I mean. So I'm going to tape these together, and we're going to pick out an edge to start with. Usually start with the base, and that's the first one. And I'll show you kind of how I tape edges from that piece of plywood. So I'm going to make sure these are all true first. So let's go over here. Maybe you can look over my shoulder. So this is my Sears Craftsman belt/disc sander, and it is one of my favorite tools in the shop. So let's get these fins over here and do some sanding. Okay, so we're going to work on this edge first. Make sure it's all right. Okay, that all looks good. Now I need to get these. I may go ahead and work on that one while we're here. Okay, looks good. You know, it's kind of jumped. You got to really kind of keep your hands on these things, because you know, with that spinning disc, it can kind of grab it and throw it. So now we need to work on this leading edge and trailing edge, so that means I need to move the tape. So, okay. Don't think there's any need to go any further on that. So now I've got a perfectly matched stack of fins. Then we'll do some rounding of the edges and things like that. But I still need to cut the notches out of those other ones, but we'll get to that here in a minute. So there you go. It's not super fast, but that pull saw can be very precise. Okay, the fins look good. Got the notches cut. We'll see here in a minute how well they fit into, you know, the notches in the rings. There may be some more sanding and things to do, but that's why you've got, like, you know, you get like these little sanders like this that will give you a nice flat surface. And if anything, you can always wrap, you know, sandpaper around the wood and work it that way. But the first thing we got to do is get the centering rings to slide over this motor mount tube just a little bit better. So I'm going to use one of my don't know if it's my first favorite, second favorite. It's just one of my favorite tools is the old Dremel with the drum. So I'm going to hit, just lightly zing around the inside diameter of that, each one of those 3 centering rings, and get them to fit. These laser cut rings, you can watch kind of the char, and it gives you kind of an idea how deep you're going. So that one goes on now. It's still pretty tight. I may go ahead and give it a little bit more. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. Still fits pretty tight, but I can slide it on. You don't want things locking up on you when you start to put the glue or epoxy there. So that one's good. I'm going to do the rest of these rings so they go on there good. Then we'll do another little dry fit, and I'll kind of show you how the fin can goes together. So.